Liontamer was set up by two women 4.5 years ago in New Zealand, and just recently you may have seen on the news that a Belgian bank, KBC, not a household name in New Zealand, took a 51% stake in Liontamer. KBC are the 11th biggest bank in Europe, and by market cap, if you were to value the KBC, they're bigger than the top 50 companies in New Zealand put together. So they're a reasonable player in the global investment bank world, and they just took a big interest in this small New Zealand-based company because of the innovative type of products that we have in New Zealand and that we're delivering to New Zealand investors. We've launched 22 funds during the last 4.5 years, and the important thing to bear in mind with Liontamer products, and I'll repeat this, is that your capital is fully protected. So although you're invested in markets that can go up and down, if you invest in a product that invests in markets that fall in value, at maturity, the worst that can happen is that you will get your money back. Okay? And that's why these products are very attractive to investors in New Zealand, because many people in New Zealand have lost money in investments. And so wouldn't it be great if we can invest in the types of markets which have historically given better returns than the type of returns you get in the bank, while at the same time knowing that my money is safe, that it's not subject to this volatility like it would be were I to own shares directly in my own name. So typically a Liontamer fund will be for a fixed period of 4 to 5 years. Now, unlike the other people that have presented today, we are not providing income products. Okay, so don't invest in a Liontamer fund if you are dependent on that money for a regular income. This is a growth investment, but hopefully, given the fact that it's not a very long term, it's only 4 or 5 years, means that a lot of investors can afford to have a portion of their investments in this type of product, hopefully increasing the overall capital of their wealth over time. And so, the worst case scenario is you get your money back at maturity, but instead of earning interest, you have this thing, what's known as a participation. So we sacrifice the interest that we get from the bank, but instead of that, we're given the benefit of the rise in the market or the index or the stocks that the particular product that we have on offer at the time is exposed to. So I'll just explain this piece of jargon. This is probably the most important piece of information that you need to remember when you consider a Liontamer product. What participation says is how much of the rise in the market do I as an investor benefit from. So if I'm invested in a Liontamer product that has 100% participation, that does not mean I will get 100% return. What that means is I will get 100% of the rise of the market in which I am invested in. So if the market I'm invested in goes up 50%, I get a 50% return. I get 100% of whatever the rise was. If I invest in a Liontamer product with 80% participation, I get slightly less than the rise. So if the markets are up 50%, I get a 40% return. However, most of our products that we have at the moment have enhanced participation rates, which means that, for example, here we've got an example of 120% participation. If I'm invested in a Liontamer product with 120% participation, what that means is I get 1.2 times the rise. So if the market is up 50%, I get a 60% return. I get more than the rise of the market, while at the same time having the peace of mind of knowing that had the markets not gone up, had they gone down instead, I would at least have got my money back at maturity. Okay, so that's quite important. I get my money back at maturity, but if those markets go up, in a lot of instances, I actually get more than the rise in that market. Some people would say that's having your cake and eating it, and I think that's probably a fair assumption. So I guess the purpose of these products is to discourage people from this panic selling. All right, because these are a medium-term product, the full terms apply at maturity. So don't invest in this if you can't see it through to the 4 or 5 years of the term. But there's no reason why you should need to get your money out, because we give clients the assurance that at maturity you will at least get your money back. And if the markets that you're invested in have risen, you get more than your money back. So if markets fall in the meantime, there's no need to worry. There's no need to panic. There's no need to get sweats of bead on your forehead because you're wondering what's happening to your capital, because you will get it back when it matures in the worst case scenario. So a lot of the time we try to compare the capital protection that you get from a Liontamer product with a term deposit. Now, one thing that I will point out is when you invest in a term deposit, is your money guaranteed? Do you get a certificate of guarantee? No. You are an unsecured creditor of the bank, which means that they owe you money. They have a legal obligation to return your capital at maturity, but the word guarantee with your term deposit will not appear on that certificate. When you invest in a Liontamer product, you have the same level of capital protection as you would have with your retail banks in New Zealand. In fact, the particular funds that we've got on offer at the moment is backed by UBS, which is a Swiss bank, which has a Standard & Poor's investment grade rating of AA+. That's just one notch below most sovereign governments throughout the world. So as far as their capital protection is concerned, it is at least as good as the retail banks in New Zealand. Okay, so if you're happy to put your money on a term deposit with a retail bank and the capital security that you get from that, you get no less security on your capital investing in a Liontamer product. So, just very briefly, I'll talk about the theme of the funds that we've got available at the moment. It's called the Water Series 1. One of the things that Liontamer do is they like to give investors exposure to innovative markets. They launched a commodities fund 3.5 years ago, which is maturing soon. They launched a fund that gave investors the opportunity to invest in BRIC markets, Brazil, Russia, India and China. Now, sometimes these markets for investors will seem a little bit risky. And under normal circumstances, we might be scared by the volatility of those particular markets. However, if you can invest in a risky market while at the same time having that assurance that if that market goes too risky and actually goes down in value at maturity, I'll still get my money back. And so some investors like the peace of mind of saying, well, I'm happy or I'm prepared to invest in that type of investment because although it's a little bit more risky, my money is safe, my money is secure, my money is protected, in this case by UBS. So why would you invest in water? And I'll just very, very quickly, when we look at the economics of water, really what we need to consider is the fact that we live in a world where we use water all the time. Now, we're not just talking about the water used for the shower or the bath or for cooking or for drinking. A lot of water is used up in manufacturing. For example, we use nearly 150,000 of litres of water in the manufacturing of a car. Okay, and there's lots of cars in the world. Okay, 1,000 litres of water required to manufacture 1 kilogram of rice. And so there's a lot of water that is required, not just for our daily consumption, but for a lot of the products and services that we use. Now, 2/3 of the world is covered in water, but 97% of that water is seawater. We cannot use it. So of the remaining 3% of the water that's not in the seas and oceans, there's only 3% left. 2/3 of the remaining water is in the ice cap, so we can't use that. So of the remaining, and then you've got 29% of what's left underground. So really there's only a very small fraction of the world's water that is available for human consumption and for human use. All right? And to make matters worse, the global population is increasing. Not only is it increasing, but those people in developing worlds are becoming wealthier. And when they become wealthier, they consume more goods and services which require lots more water in their manufacture and development. And so why is this important? Okay, well, this is important for those companies that are associated with the water industry. Because if I'm an infrastructure company, if I'm a utility company, if I manufacture parts for the water industry, as the demand for clean drinking water increases and water for commercial and industrial use increases, I am going to benefit because my orders are going to rise, because the demand is going to rise. Therefore, you probably remember this picture from school. This is the water cycle. The fund that we're offering invests you as an investors to exposure to companies that are involved in all aspects of the water cycle. So that's manufacturing, that's pipes, that's desalination, that's water technology. All different aspects along the water cycle, companies are represented in this basket of stocks in the Liontamer Fund. In fact, one of the stocks is Suez, which is a French company, and interestingly, Suez owns New Zealand Water Treatment Services, which actually runs the wastewater treatment. They built, designed and managed the wastewater treatment plant here in Lower Hutt. So even you local residents are affected by some of the stocks that are in this portfolio. So they're the 15 stocks that will be in the Water Series 1 index. And really, you've got two types of units that you can choose from. You've got booster units.